Hi guys, welcome to the Lewis structures or dot diagrams tutorial. These are two names that mean the same thing. They refer to the same process. So far we've been drawing Bohr diagrams for atoms. So for example, if I wanted to draw sodium, which has the symbol Na, I would find out how many protons and neutrons sodium had, fill that information in the middle. Looking at my periodic table, I know that sodium has 11 protons, and using my rounding trick, I know that it has 12 neutrons. I can also figure out where the electrons go using the little numbers stacked on the right. And I know that sodium has 2 electrons in the inner shell, and it has 8 in the next. Oops, missed my spot. That's a little better. And so it has 8, and now you spread them out like so. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And he has 1 in the outer shell. So that is the Bohr diagram for sodium. Now, the dot diagram is very, very similar, but it gets rid of the protons, the neutrons, and all of the electrons except for one. The only electron we really care about when we're bonding atoms, or electrons I should say, is whatever's in the valence, whatever's in the outer shell, because atoms only bond using their outermost electrons. So most of the interactions, in fact almost all of them, that happen between atoms happen here in this outer layer. So we don't need all that other information if what we want to do is draw bonds. So what do you do instead? I'll show you. It couldn't be any simpler. Instead, what we do is we write the symbol for sodium, Na, and I just typed it instead of hand drawing it to make it a little neater. And then we just put the valence electrons around sodium in the same way that we put them into the Bohr diagram, using the northeast, southwest directions. There's just one, and it's in the north position, so I'm just going to pop a dot right there. See why it's called a dot diagram? That is all you have to do if you're doing a Lewis structure or a dot diagram for sodium. Really easy. Let's try another one. Let's do oxygen. When I look up oxygen on the periodic table, to draw his Bohr diagram, I need to get the protons and neutrons. So he has 8 protons, and coincidentally, he also has 8 neutrons. I'm going to pop in my electrons following the configuration that's shown on the periodic table. So there's 2 in the inner shell, and there's 6 in the outer shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, how do I draw the dot diagram? See if you can do it. Pause and see if you can do it before I show you how. Okay, so you draw the symbol for oxygen, and then you just go and put the valence electrons around the oxygen, following the same pattern you would have in the Bohr. So what are you going to do? Just the outer ring, right? So the outer ring has 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a little bit hard to do nice and neatly on the iPad, but hopefully you can do a little bit of a better job and not have them all be crooked. They should be, lined up perfectly. That's a little bit better there. Okay, so let's try another one on our own. How about you guys do magnesium? He's in group 2. Here's the Bohr model, right? You've got 12 protons, 12 neutrons, and 12 electrons, all very coincidental there with the neutrons. Sometimes neutrons match up with the other 2, sometimes they don't. So where are the valence electrons, right? That's the question. Well, they're here. They're in the outer shell, right here, right? Anything in there has to go into our dot diagram. And all we have are 2. So those 2 valence electrons go where? In the north position. Couldn't be any easier, right? So I'm going to be asking you in class to do a lot of these. So you'll draw the Bohr model, and then you'll draw the dot diagram, and you'll get really good at that. And then once you're really good at all of those things, we can move on to bonding and understanding the structure of the atom in a deeper way. So right now, all we've been doing is practicing the skills. Now what's going to happen is we're going to come up on April break. I'm making this tutorial on the Thursday before April break. So when that happens, you have no homework over break for me, so you will probably forget a lot of this information, which is okay. So when you come back, we're going to have to sort of revisit it. So the more time you put into it now, though, right before break, the more time you put into it today, probably the better off you'll be and the less review we'll have to do when you get back. And, just for practice, why don't you try? I'll give you 3 to do at the bottom, and I'll just go ahead and do them and give you the answer so you can see whether or not you get the concept here. Okay, here are 3 atoms. Why don't you try fluorine, lithium, and sulfur, do the Bohr and the Lewis dot diagrams for each of them. Before I put them on, make sure you pause. Okay, they're a little bit crooked, but that's what they look like. I think maybe next time I do dot diagrams on a tutorial, I'll use a smaller dot size instead of using that giant one that I was using for the Bohr models. But the idea is the same, right? Fluorine has 9 total electrons, but he only has 7 valence electrons. Lithium's got 1 valence electron, and sulfur has 6 valence electrons. So that's why you get those models. Okay, so we'll practice a lot in class, and I'll see you then.